ILVOTE call. We're going to go from 7 to 7:30. At 7:30, we're going to go into the Vote by Mail Task Force team, and at 8 o'clock, we're going to go into the statewide Indivisible Illinois call. So thank you all for being here. Love to just go around, and if you could just say your name, the group you might be with, and the neighborhood you're calling from, or the congressional district, or however you want to identify yourself, that would be lovely. I'm going to call on, I'm just going to go in the order that I see. Nick, you.
Hey everyone, I'm Nick. I'm the Senior Regional Organizer for Indivisible statewide. I'm calling from Rogers Park in Illinois 9.
Great. Marianne.
I'm Marianne. I'm calling from LaGrange Park, Illinois, because I'm still sorry that I left the city. And mostly what I do is phone banking.
Thanks, Marianne. Merle.
Hi, I'm Merle Monroe from Evanston, Illinois. I'm with Indivisible Evanston and busy writing postcards.
Thanks, Merle. I love Marianne and Merle that you're introducing yourselves and the action that you're taking right now. It's fantastic. Jonathan.
I'm Jonathan Rogoff. I'm with Indivisible Illinois 9. I guess I'm doing some stuff with Indivisible Illinois in terms of the virus-free voting Illinois webpage. And I'm also connected with the Shy Commons Limited Worker Cooperative.
Thanks, Jonathan. And I don't see you, Rana, but you're next on my screen. If you're around, pop into the video. If not, we'll just go on. Let me go on to Carrie.
Sorry, hey, I'm relatively new to Indivisible, helping out with some upcoming phone banking, and I'm over in Riverside in the western suburbs.
Super, Carrie, and we love your t-shirt. It's fantastic. Rose.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rose Colacino with Indivisible Illinois, and I'm living in Orland Park and Lakeview.
Thanks, Rose. Robin, fine.
There we go. Hi, my name is Robin Fine. I got an email from Indivisible, and I wanted to try and start getting involved. And so that's why I decided to hop on this for as long as I can be on it.
Thanks for being here, Robin. Where are you calling from?
I'm in Boynton Park's my own, by Peterson and Lincoln Avenue.
Fantastic.
By Legion Park.
Perfect.
40th, yes.
Thanks for being here. Barbara.
I'm big on making phone calls.
Awesome. We definitely need phone callers. That's Barbara.
I'm Barbara Brumfield, and I am with Indivisible Metro East and Illinois Democrat Women. And I've been busy with postcards.
Thank you, Barbara. Kevin.
Hello, I'm Kevin Murray. I am new with Indivisible, and I have been doing church voter registration drives. I got to become a deputy registrar through you guys, and 3 of my friends have too through you guys. So we're trying to organize more church voter registration drives because our first one was so successful.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
Oh, and I'm in Blue Island, born and raised in Chicago.
Fantastic. Thanks for being here. Lori.
Hi, I'm Lori Ashikawa. I'm with Indivisible IL9, and I'm also on the Social Justice Committee for the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago.
Thanks, Lori. And we're going to hear from Lori and Jonathan and Sarah, who's going to go next within this next 2-hour call, if you decide to stay until the very end. But thank you for being here, Lori. Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I live in Logan Square. I've been working with the Vote by Mail Task Force and with Jonathan on the website. I've also, like Kevin, got some voter engagement stuff going at church. I'm trying to grow that a little bit. And I also went to text bank training with Rust Belt Rising this morning, which was awesome. Excited to get
going. Very awesome. Thanks, Sarah. And next we have Donna. Oh, Donna, you're on mute.
I know better. I know better. I just go where Leni goes. So yeah, I'm pretty much like a groupie. So I figure, you know, she always has the best information. I love reading everything that she emails. I take copious notes, and I'm into postcarding a lot. So I figured out a way, and I probably would like an opinion here. You know, it's very hard to handwrite 400 postcards. Kind of ambitious, but I want you to see this. I used a handwriting thing on a printed, and I'm going to be pasting it on the postcard and signing my name personally underneath. And I think this is going to work. It kind of looks nice. It's kind of like handwritten, the message that's supposed to be there. And I may even put their first name on top, like Melissa, and sign it Donna. So they think it's personal. So I'm going to be buying a lot of roll-on glue. What, Rana? Yeah?
Yeah, we're not supposed to do that. The reason that we write it is so that it looks handwritten and they're getting a personal thing. It's always supposed to have their first name, and it's supposed to have our first name at the bottom, thanking them or whatever. But it's not supposed to look printed because they feel they've paid people lots of money to study this. I got a whole story about it. But anyway, so it's really not supposed to. So what you do with the 400,
I kind of agree with Rana.
What you do with the 400 postcards, you share them with friends.
Okay. All right. I wanted to bring it up as a group.
No,
I haven't gone through the thing of printing them yet or anything like that. But okay, I'm all in. I'll just do 10 a night. What's the difference? I can't mail until October anyhow.
Right. Thanks, Meryl.
Right.
Thanks, Donna, and thanks, Rana and Merle, for chiming in there. Rana, we skipped you because you stepped out. Do you want to introduce yourself and where you're calling
I'm
from?
Rana. I live in Edgewater at the Breakers, which is a senior building where I see Jonathan every so often. His mother lives here. She's a wonderful woman. And today we did voter registration, which is always interesting doing it in this building because the scene always changes. But anyway, so did that, and I'm working with Leni on working on a project. Leni, are you going to tell people? Can I tell people what the story is or no?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well,
we're actually still doing. Let's go through the introductions and we'll come back around.
When
Rana.
we're finished. But anyway, I'm working on something with Leni, which is always interesting. And yeah. Nice meeting all of you.
Thank you, Rana. Next, we have Magda.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Magda Roth. I am in Homewood, Illinois, so somewhere at the intersection of 294 and I-80. And I'm trying to do things with the voter registration, more with the vote by mail and information about the voting. Actually, I'm stopping everybody. My walks here and there, or during my shopping, I have a postcard which has all the information in English and in Spanish. And the funny story is that yesterday I was at Kohl's and my husband is accusing me that that's my second home. And as I'm giving my cards out, one of the employees says, "Oh, you already gave me one." And my husband took it from me, and he decided to register to vote. So hey, one person extra.
Awesome, thank you, Magda. And Lori was showing some stuff. Lori, you're next.
I already went.
Oh, did you? Oh, I think that we got. Oh,
Lori.
Yeah, you're right. Let's go to Bree.
Hi, everybody. I don't have camera today because of technical difficulties, but I'm here. I am right on the bridge between Avondale and Irving Park, and currently I am working on getting some voter registration word out to the community colleges of Chicago. So we're trying to get clever with that, but if anybody has any input, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, Bree, definitely send me an email and I'll connect you to the person that I know. And also Rose knows somebody from City Colleges, so we should definitely connect you with Rose.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, Laura.
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, hi. Okay, I'm Dr. Laura Chamberlain. I'm with Clean County. We're Election Integrity Group. And I'm actually here as a representative of a National Election Protection Coalition to give Indivisible a warning about some things that are going on in Wisconsin and Michigan, because I heard you were postcarding and calling into those states. So I'd like to, I'm going to post right now an article about this, and then maybe I can have a chance to talk about it later.
Yeah, for sure. Right now we're talking about Illinois voter registration from 7 to 7:30, and then we'll talk about vote by mail for the next half hour until 8 o'clock, from 8 until 9. That's when we're going to start talking more about Wisconsin and other things. But thank you for being here. Nikita, thank you for joining.
Hello, I'm from NWSOFA. I'm a new member. I am helping to get registered to vote and to get vote by mail out. And I'm in Hillside, Illinois.
Thank you for being here. And then Julia, we're also going to circle back around to you, but go ahead and introduce yourself now.
Hi, I'm Julia. I live in Hyde Park. I'm Indivisible Southside. I also hang out with Indivisible Blue Beginnings and Indivisible Illinois. And I am all about voter registration and voter protection. I'm doing phone banking to Michigan, Wisconsin, and I went up to Wisconsin to be a poll observer for their primary in August. I'm an election judge. And then the main thing that we're doing is we're standing on street corners out in Hyde Park talking to voters about getting registered and doing vote by mail. And it's not the highest impact. I registered a grand total of 2 people. However, with all the people that we talked to and answered questions, I think that we are definitely increasing the overall voter turnout and their success in returning their ballots, because we're giving them answers about how to do it. So, and people around the neighborhood are wanting to chip in and participate. So that's what we're up to.
Thank you, Julia. And we're going to go through the document that you shared with me this week. I would love to share it with everybody. Just a couple of announcements first. Tomorrow, we're going to have Sarah and Jonathan, who are on this call today, on the Virus-Free Voting Illinois live stream that we do every Thursday at 7 o'clock. They're going to walk us through the statewide website that they help put together with others, researching how anyone in Illinois, if they're interested in voting this year, can vote safely, securely, and in however capacity they would like to vote. So we're going to go through that tomorrow. We just wanted to remind you that this is the ILVOTE bona fide civic organization in Illinois. So if you are interested in being a poll observer and you want to be certified through ILVOTE, just let me know so that we can coordinate that. We also have an event that we're coordinating in the businesses. So I would just like you, wherever you live and work, to encourage the businesses to help support civic engagement. For instance, what Rana is helping to lead in Andersonville, and I'll pass it on to her so you can introduce that. Rana?
Well, I got a call from Leni. Did I want to come to a meeting? We had talked about doing Michael Bransford from Vincent's Restaurant, who's let us do a lot of different meetings there over the past couple of years. I got in touch with her and thought we could do deputy registrar voting there again. So we met yesterday with Michael and Max from Replay, which is the restaurant across the street. And if you don't live in the area, you don't know, but during the week and on weekends for sure, they close off a busy street, Balmoral. It's a east-west street. And you could sit on the street and eat. Okay. So Michael has Vincent's on the east side of the street and Replay's on the other side of the street. So we met, and what's going to happen is on the 21st, 28th, and is it the 5th of October, from 6 to 8, we're going to do many things there. The big thing being that we're going to do voter registration in the street. And if you're interested, contact me, because there's going to be tables set up. There's also going to be a table, I believe, like Black Trans Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Indivisible Illinois 9, the independent ward organizations, because right across the street is the 40th ward, Andre Vasquez's ward, and on the other side where Vincent's is, it's Harry Osterman's ward. And there's going to be other tables, and we're getting the, what is it called? The Andersonville Chamber of Commerce involved, and I am just so excited about this. So people can get in touch with me if they're interested, in touch with Leni, and more information will be coming out. But this is just great to have in a city like Chicago, the ability to say, I'm going to close the street off because I want to do voter registration. This is like, what did I drink? What planet am I on? Thank you, Leni.
Would you please say again exactly when and where, or email will come about it?
Let's send an email, Magda, once it goes public. But it is it's on Mondays, 2 Mondays in September and 1 in October. And if you are interested in tabling there, I think that there's room for at least 18 tables. Then please do come. We would love to have you. Thank you, Rana. We're going to pass it. We're going to pass it on to Julia, who is she's great with her phone and taking pictures of her voter registrants along the years, but would love to hear your story about how you're sharing the message on how people can vote this year. Julia.
Yeah, hi, thanks. So yeah, like I said a minute ago, we are out on the street corner, and Kevin, who's on tonight's call, joined us this past Sunday, and basically just stand on the street corner with clipboards and ask passersby, are you registered to vote? And the key to being successful with this effort is to not stop with just that question, because everybody is going to either say yes or no, and either like, yes, good for me, and then keep walking, or no. I mean, we get a few of those, like, no, hell no, I'm not going to participate in this sham, and they keep walking. But so when whichever their answer, I mean, if they're no and they're angry, let them go. But if they say, yes, I'm registered to vote, then the follow-up question is, great, do you have a plan for how you're going to vote this year? And that is a terrific question, because like 80% of people go, do I have a plan? What? Like it stops them, you know, and anybody who's ever done any kind of, you know, talking to people walking on the sidewalk, you know, that's the key thing, right? And so like, do I have a plan? I hadn't thought about if I have a plan. And so then that's when I get to say, so are you going to vote in person, or are you going to vote by mail? And whichever answer they give, if they say, I'm going to vote in person, I say, great. And do you know that the first day to vote is October 14th? Great. And do you know that the early voting locations are listed in a PDF on the Board of Elections, Chicago Board of Elections website? And here's the link. And then generally they're saying, oh yeah, this is all very helpful. It's good information. And then I also throw out to them, it's a really solid plan B to go ahead and order a vote by mail anyway, even if you don't intend to use it, because God knows what kind of shenanigans might fall on our head that might make you decide that voting at the poll is not something that you want to do. And if you realize this on October 25th, it might be too late for you to get a ballot by mail. Whereas the opposite is really super easy. If you get yourself an absentee ballot, then you have it just in case. And if you decide that you don't want to use it, then you just bring it with you to the polls and you kind of like cash it in for a vote in person. Does that make sense? And people say, oh yeah, wow, that makes sense. And then generally, I say to them, great, do you have your phone on you? I'll give you the website where you can go to order your vote by mail. And when I'm doing it on the sidewalk, I send people to vote.org, just because it's 8 presses with the thumbs. So that's the easiest way to do it on the sidewalk. I say, go to vote.org. And a couple of people I've gotten them, you know, signed up right there on the spot. They've ordered a ballot right there on the spot. Some of them are busy. They want to keep going, whatever. And that's kind of the gist of it. We're also getting ready to talk to businesses and restaurants. I made that comment in the chat. So I'm interested to know, I mean, I think that we know what we're going to do, but you know, who knows? If somebody's got some brilliant strategies to share, that'd be great. We're also going to be this Saturday. There's something called the Side Hustle Fair down here in Woodlawn. And so we're going to go from 2 to 6 there. And then Leni referenced this document that I made. Do you want me to share it in the chat, Leni?
Yeah.
So this document is a 3-page Google Doc that basically is kind of like a summarized, it's for Chicago voters. It doesn't work for Illinois voters because and as most people on the call probably know, but maybe not everybody, the Illinois State Board of Elections is not the place to go if you live in the city of Chicago. The Chicago Board of Elections is completely separate from the Illinois Board of Elections. And so if you go to the Illinois Board of Elections, then that's where the Vote for Illinois or VoteFreeIllinois.org website sends you, like at the top, you know, it says here, go here, and it sends you the Illinois website. You'll eventually get your way to the Chicago website, but it takes like 5 or 6 clicks, and it can be very confusing, and you can get thrown off, and you can accidentally try to order your ballot from the Illinois website and blah, blah, blah. So it's frustrating. So this document is all about Chicago voters, and it includes all of the deadlines, all of the dates when things are going to get sent. Also, it includes the interesting tidbit. I don't know if the rest of Illinois or if Michigan or Wisconsin are doing this, but Chicago is sending a 4-part email campaign to every single person who requests a ballot. And the details about what those emails are in this document, but basically they're like, okay, we got your request, thanks. And then they're saying, we sent you your ballot, it's on its way. And then another one saying, we got your ballot back again. And then, you know, and then so on and so forth. So, and it also includes a unique tracking link, a USPS tracking link for your ballot once you request it. So all of that information is in there. I don't know, what else, what questions do you have? What else would you like me to focus on?
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
If you,
yes, Carol, yep.
If you register to vote through a third-party organization like vote.org, for example, Julia, are you sure that they will then get that personal URL code to track? Because in one meeting, it may have been a League of Women Voters meeting, there was a gentleman from suburban Cook County, and I feel like he said, if you register directly through, you know, like either the Illinois State Board of Elections or through like City of Chicago or suburban Cook, then you're going to get that URL. But I'm concerned if they're getting registered through, you know, there's many of these third-party things.
Right. So yeah. So let me just. Right. So the third-party websites don't register you. That's the kind of the whole thing. So if you go to vote.org, yeah, if you go to vote.org, what it says put in your address and then put in your whatever, and then basically it redirects you to the correct website.
Okay. So really they're getting registered through their election authority.
Absolutely. Yeah, you end up on the Chicago Board of Elections website if you're a Chicago voter, or Illinois if you're an Illinois voter. It's literally just takes 8 presses to get there instead of whatever long website there is.
Why he said that then, but yeah, so that's great. It makes a lot of sense, and that puts my mind at ease.
And well, and I don't know for sure if that is the way that every single other third-party organization does it, but like votesaveamerica.com is the other one that I sometimes send people to. And it does the same thing. It redirects people to your Board of Elections.
Okay, the one other question that's up for anybody, Julia, you may know this, maybe Leni, maybe Rose. If you request that, you know, like you said, as a plan B, why not just request the mail ballot? If you do request a mail ballot, even though you're not sure what you want to do, because you want to do it early, just so you have the option, if you fill it out at home and then decide you want to relinquish it and vote in person, is that different than bringing a blank ballot? You won't be a provisional voter. Even if you filled it out, you can basically say, I don't want to do it this way. They'll rip it up, and they will still allow you to vote in person. Because I get
1,000%. It's the process is called spoiling. And so, I mean, and you could do it if you spilled coffee all over your thing, or if your dog chewed it up, or whatever the reason is. It's just, hey, I don't want to use this ballot. Instead, I want to vote here in person. No problem. They take it and they write spoiled all over the ballot, and they let you vote in person.
So the only way you get put in that provisional pile is what?
Is if you come to the poll and say, I want to vote in person, and you already requested a mail-in ballot that you don't have with you. And you might, you know, and every once in a while you'll get somebody who says, I swear I did not request a mail-in ballot. I say, I'm sorry, sir, my poll-in book tells me that you requested a mail-in ballot. I cannot give you a ballot. I'm so sorry. Here's a provisional ballot. And the thing with the provisional ballot is that it is exactly the same as a regular ballot. Again, in the city of Chicago, I'm 100% sure this is correct. I don't know about any place else. Okay. The city of Chicago, it's exactly the same as any other ballot, assuming that the Chicago Board of Elections can verify that you are in fact legally registered to vote. Okay. Did not vote in any other means, and then it's just a regular ballot. And if they can't determine that, the Chicago, again, don't know anyplace else, Chicago will reach out to you. Say, hey, voter, we have a provisional ballot. We can't count it for XYZ reason. You've got until November 17th, 14 days from the day of the election to fix it, and we'll count your ballot for you.
Okay, that's great information.
As a voter, as a judge, when you open up whatever that is called, Lenny, maybe you can help me, but you open up the computers, and as you're going to get things going, you do have a list of people who have applied to vote by mail, and you do have a list of people whose votes were received, and a list of people whose votes weren't received. So you do have an idea of what's going on, and I guess you do the provisional, right? You can, say, they can offer you, I think, provisional if you say, but I sent it in, and we can say, but it's not there.
Okay.
Right.
So am I correct on that one? I mean, I know you can look it up, but that's how it works also.
Yeah, if the voter is standing there and screaming at you and saying, I want to vote, I want to vote. Okay, here's your provisional ballot, and then the board will deal with it.
Okay.
Right,
Yes.
but yeah.
Thank you. Let's go to Lori, and then we've got 4 minutes before we have Rose starting the vote by mail task force half hour, where we're going to answer a lot of other questions. Lori?
Well, yeah, actually, I have a question for Julia. So I was doing a bunch of voter registration down in Austin a couple weeks ago, and I finally went through, I had some students helping me. I've had a lot of people who don't have driver's licenses and they don't have state IDs, but they do know their last 4 digits of their social security. But I'm wondering that now that I have these, how do I know that the Chicago Board of Elections, are they going to look up that person's social security card if the person chooses not to go in person? Because, when you go to the SIBO site, it says, if this is your first time voting and you only had your social security, you have to go in person. But then there's kind of a disclaimer saying, if you're going to do a mail-in ballot, you can mail in a picture of your ID. But, these are people who may not necessarily do that. So I was wondering if anyone had any advice on what to do with that.
Are you talking about somebody who's registering to vote for the very first time?
Yes.
And they're telling you they don't have a picture ID to show you, or they don't have it at all?
A lot of people don't. Either they don't have it to show me, or they don't have it at all. I mean, all they have is like the last 4 digits of their social security.
Right, and so if you're on the street with them, then you're filling out a motor voter form, right? In the 4 digits. What the Board of Elections will do is they'll say, fine, we'll register this person, but this person is going to have to show proper identification then at the poll. And so in order to vote for the first time, they will have to get some ID that has their picture on it. And it can be anything at all. It doesn't have to be official. The state of Illinois is terrific with that, but they do have to have an ID with their picture on it. And then additionally, they have to have a second something that has their current address on it. It doesn't have to have their picture. And the ID doesn't have to have an address. So, but they have one with a picture, one with an address. And they do have to have that in order to vote the very first time.
I didn't
So
think you ever,
Hold on.
I didn't think you ever had to show a picture ID. You don't.
In order to register to vote, yes, you do.
It's against the law.
I don't believe that is true, Julia, but let's follow up with an email from the Chicago Board of Elections. From my understanding, you do not need to show a picture ID.
You don't need to show a picture ID to vote, but you need to show a picture ID to register for the very first time in the state of Illinois.
Let's verify that with the Chicago Board of Elections for sure, because that's an important distinction, and we should know that. Okay, we've got
Sorry, Julie, I didn't mean to jump on you. It's just like, it's just what they do in other places to keep people from voting, so.
Right, and you're definitely not required to show an ID in order to vote. But in order to establish your identity, in order to register you for the very first time, you do have to have some kind of a picture ID.
See, I don't think that that's true, because whenever we've registered people to vote, we've never asked them for a picture ID. We've asked for their social security card, and that's, but again, we're gonna go back.
And then they have to bring a picture ID at the poll in order to vote if it's the very first time that they have voted in the state of Illinois.
Well, part of it is that when they fill out the motor voter, they're giving you their signature, which is basically, if they had a state ID, their signature would be on record. So this is how their signature is getting on record, through the motor voter.
I'm gonna put a stop right now
Okay.
because I want to respect the next
Yes.
half hour and the speakers and the time that we have, which is a really tight agenda and a really exciting call. I'm looking forward to it. I want to first thank Julia for sharing all this information, and please put your information into the chat, Julia, so people can reach out to you and maybe find you when you do your voter registration stuff. And Kevin, thank you for being out there, everyone for being out there doing voter registration. We're going to hear from Carrie and Lori actually in a second, but I'm first going to toss it over to Rose, who is leading our Vote by Mail Task Force team. Thank you everyone for being here.
Yes, hi, good evening. Happy to be with all of you today. Welcome. I'm really excited to have a special guest with us this evening, Chris Patterson, not really Lori. You'll see him, at least he's in the lower left corner of my screen, but really thrilled to have you, Chris. I'm gonna try to keep my remarks short to give you more time, but just wanna provide a little background about, as Leni said, our very, very tight agenda. I'm gonna share my screen in a moment, but want to introduce myself to those of you that don't know me. I am Rose Colacino. I'm the election security voters rights person for Indivisible Illinois. I also lead the Vote by Mail Task Force, and we certainly have been very, very busy. As far as our mission, we continue on with what we've been working on for some months. We do encourage you, if you haven't already, to apply for your Vote by Mail application, and also encourage you to tell your network, your friends, neighbors, colleagues, and everybody else to do the same. I know there's been a lot of talk out there. There's some concern about the Postal Service, as well as I've heard some concern about non-existent voter fraud for vote by mail. I assure you that we have been in touch with the election authorities and with voting rights organizations. It is still safe. Happy to talk to anybody one-on-one about that. I also encourage you to poll watch if you're not in the poll work, I should say, if you are not in the at-risk category. Yesterday was National Poll Worker Day. There's a shortage, Leni let us know, about 250,000 poll workers across the US. We have had the opportunity to have James Allen at some of our meetings, and I don't have those numbers in front of me, but there most definitely is a shortage in Illinois too. So if you are not in the at-risk category, I do encourage you, if this is something that speaks to you, I do encourage you to look into this. Again, severe shortage, and this is a paid position. I want to tell you that I'm actually quite proud of our diversity and inclusion work group as part of the Vote by Mail Task Force. And that leads us into the busy topic that we have for you today. And we feel very strongly, as I'm sure everybody does here, that every voice matters, and we want to make sure that every vote counts for not only November, but beyond. And so with that, we have a number of really exciting actions to ensure that the underserved community is heard. And one of those actions are going to be introduced to you today. And without further ado, I want to take this opportunity to introduce Chris Patterson to you. You do have his intro if those of you that received the invitation for the Vote by Mail Task Force meeting today. And so we will be in partnership for this very exciting action that you're going to hear more about from Lori and Carrie. It constitutes a organization called Communities Partnering for Peace. And Chris Patterson, he is the Senior Director of Programs and Policy at the Institute for Nonviolence. And I'm going to hand it over to him to talk about the CP4P. Over to you, Chris.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to come and even here. Rose and Lori, thank you for being open to a different idea. So the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago, we serve Austin and West Garfield Park and the back of the yards neighborhoods. The reason, and you know, if you're looking at like any local statistics recently, you're seeing that Boston and West Garfield Park now are unfortunately leading the city in shootings and homicides. Prior to that, though, 2016 to 2019, they had more than 50% reduction in shootings, right? So, 2020 being what it is, COVID has affected many of us in different ways. The communities in which I live and work in have been adversely affected, and as a result, violence is higher than normal. It's not through the roof, but it's, I think on some levels being hopefully on a downward slope, and then the winter. So for what we think we can do is we have pop-ups that happen 3 times a week in just Austin and West Garfield Park. So that for us, that's 6 events a week. We do them in hotspot areas in the community. And then the wonderful news about this is that we're attached to a larger coalition that we helped create that it involves 15 organizations called Community Partnering for Peace. So that's CP for P. Initially, it was 8 organizations, which we were one of those 8 founding organizations, and it ballooned out to 15. Those 15 organizations cover 22 communities, and those 22 communities account for about 85% of the violence in Chicago. So in a lot of ways, those organizations that we're working with, under dosage, under resourced, underfunded, are doing impactful work. And the thing we talk about often is, and we've even heard it from CPD, if we weren't there, organizations like ours, what would the violence be like today, right? So there's a lot of mediations that happen. Our work is around gun and gang mediations. We only work with those who are at risk of either shooting someone or being shot, people coming home from prison with violence in their background and or gun charges. So we want to speak to people who speak violence, right? Because it's a language we're trying to recreate new language methods. So my proposal, when I was talking to Lori and Julie, Rose, was about what if I could proposition, which I have a relationship with all, and I think they would all see the value in having voter registration, signing voters up, and allowing voters to have an opportunity who may not have been exposed to other means. And so we want to do our part. We think, at the end of the day, it's in our best interest. Fortunately, like the communities I live in, and not that long ago, like I wasn't even a voter, right? It was a person kind of feeling disenfranchised myself and not seeing the value. And I was, I drank the juice like everyone else, right? So I understand what needs to happen. And I thought more deeply about policy, for instance. For us, we get kind of caught up in putting that Band-Aid on a bullet wound, not really thinking about the long-term components. And I think quite a few of us are woke to that and moving towards that direction. So that's what our next moves are. I was going to reach out to maybe Lori tomorrow even to talk about some of the logistics, getting people to buy in and have the organization. The good news, and I'll end here, I appreciate the time again. We do 3 events a week in every neighborhood, so do the other CP for P partners. So we're constantly out there canvassing, doing events, engaging with people who may not be part of the party. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. We had a little issue with your audio. I can certainly make out what you were saying, but if anybody has questions, if anybody wants a clarification from Chris about this amazing organization, CP4P, happy to take those questions now, or we can go on. I am not going to share my screen. Go ahead, please, Dr. Laura.
Yeah, hi. Chris, my name is Dr. Laura Chamberlain. I'm an election integrity activist here in Chicago. And I'm wondering if you and your community are getting a little concerned with the possibility of vigilantism around these elections in your community. I'm wondering if you've even thought about this, or if you've talked to the alderman or anything like that. Thanks so much.
Yeah. All right, I'm sorry. So if anybody noticed, my screen froze, and I just caught the last, it froze since I was done talking. So Laura, I think I heard the end part of your comment asking if we were working with the alderman. I have an answer for that, but I'm not sure of the rest of the question. I apologize.
Right, I'll repeat it. So I and many activists across the country are very concerned about vigilantism on or around the elections, okay, election day and possibly early voting too. in Black and Brown communities. And so I was wondering if your community is concerned about that, and if you've talked to the alderman, or if you've even thought about it. What do you think?
So I haven't thought about that much, because you know, if you're in Chicago, like Austin and West Garfield Park don't necessarily make for the most welcoming, like, vigilante grounds, right? So people are not going to be, I don't anticipate people from outside of Austin and West Garfield Park coming to bully voters in Austin, West Garfield Park. But what I do think, it's just my assumption, what I do think it would be good is sometimes what we do is when we do hotspots, like we do pop-ups and barbecues and stuff on hotspots, we do let police know we're going to be there. We don't necessarily ask them to hang out with us or intervene or do any of that, just know consciously. So I think that it may be worth, you know, kind of putting this on their radar if they're not already thinking on it. And they may be already thinking on that.
Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate that. We hope you could stick around. If not, we understand. But yes, we are going to move on at this point. We are going
Rose,
to, yes.
Can I ask one quick question?
Of course,
I just
John.
wanted to know. Chris, do you have a website so we could see what events are coming up, and if we wanted to participate or anything and help you out?
Yeah, I'll put that and my email contact info in there for you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. All right.
Yes, Donna, please.
Yeah. Hi, Chris. Donna Gutman here.
Hey there.
Hey. Should we be putting up voting tables in your neighborhood
I think you
to register to vote?
I think that would be excellent. So one of the things I have one of the program managers speaking with someone tomorrow about potentially training staff to be registrars. So if we don't have to do that, if someone else can come in and do it, we can kind of expedite the process. So if you're interested in doing it, you know, Lori's been out to a few of our events, like they're fun events, they're worth coming to. Come on out. There'll be music, food. We give toys away from $5 below to the kids in the neighborhood. It's really festive, and it lasts for about 3 or 4 hours. So yeah, feel free.
Let's make it more fun and more policy oriented. Let's get people registered to vote. We'll grab Tara Dabney and we're just gonna dance, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
You know.
All right. Good. Lenny, we should talk about that. Yeah. Okay.
Love it, Donna. And Lori is certainly a great connector for us. So yeah.
I've been out there. It's great. Yeah.
I want to join you now.
Yeah. Hey, Donna.
Yeah. Hey, Chris.
So to save time, I am not going to, you're welcome, share my screen, but the agenda, if you just scroll up, you'll see what is happening next if you want to follow along here with me. I am now going to turn it over to Nick. He's going to cover the intersection of racial equity and electoral work, especially here in Illinois, and he's going to do that in 6 minutes. Thank you, Nick.
We'll see how much I can cover. Again, for anybody who's not as familiar with me, I'm Nick. I'm the senior regional organizer for Indivisible statewide. So we are doing a ton of electoral work now, but we are also still doing all we can on the racial justice front. Of course, we see what's happening with Jacob Blake. We still have the Justice in Policing Act that is sitting on Mitch McConnell's desk, and a number of other initiatives. So really, I'm going to talk about how our racial justice work and our electoral work intersects and how it relates to all of our organizing here. So we believe that being part of this indivisible movement means including all voices, and importantly, not just the people in our own backyards. We really want to create an inclusive democracy, and that means we're building a movement that goes beyond November and beyond just getting Trump out of office. And you might think, like, how can anything be more important than getting Trump out of office in 9 weeks right now? But this inclusive democracy we dream of post-Trump won't be inclusive and really won't be a democracy if it's run entirely by white people. So put simply, it's essential to Indivisible's theory of change to center race, equity, and inclusion in our organizing and group practices, especially around the elections. Importantly, how can we win if we're talking about a bunch of different issues? And how can we win if we're not focused on just winning? So we know that if we run races and we think about racial justice in that frame, we do win, and it helps all the communities in there. So we're going to look at a couple examples of recent campaigns and candidates for whom speaking openly about race and racial justice was beneficial to them, rather than detracting from it. Specifically looking at Marie Newman, Sean Casten, and a handful of other people in Chicago City Council. So first, starting with my fan favorite, Marie Newman. So she is going to be the soon US representative in Illinois' 3rd District, and many people on the call have likely helped her out, reached out to her individually. But Marie ran on a platform that has emphasized the needs of working families broadly, healthcare, economic opportunity, strong unions, and much more. These issues heavily affect communities of color, even while she wasn't explicitly naming race. But she also did explicitly name race, particularly through making immigration policy a core campaign platform. If you take a look at her website still, it is the 3rd issue listed, and she came out in strong support of securing and advancing immigrants' rights, expanding DACA, keeping families together, and much more. She also partnered with local Latinx-led organizations and Latinx communities. This is just one photo from the primary back on Twitter in March. Marie also published her campaign materials in Spanish as well as English in order to make her campaign more accessible, and she's still doing it even as we get closer to November. And of course, she won against Democrat Dan Lipinski, who clearly did not do the same. And if you take a look at what Marie's focused on now, she's been openly talking about Black Lives Matter, as many other politicians are doing. She's having these conversations about race and systemic racism with many other leaders in her district and people on the ground. So moving further outside of Chicago, Sean Casten, who won in 2018 to become the representative in Illinois 6, is doing a lot of similar work. Sean talked a lot in his campaign about facts, science, and clean energy, because those things are connected to his background, but also he spoke openly about his support of Muslim communities in the western suburbs. He has built strong partnerships with these communities in his district, earning him endorsements from the Illinois Muslim Civic Coalition, who's been on some of our virus-free voting calls, and the Northern Illinois American Muslim Alliance, among others. This supported his ground game, and it helped him win. If you take a look at what Sean is focused on now, much like Marie, he's centering race in his public presence and in his work. These are just a handful of Sean's tweets from the past couple months. One emphasizes the importance of moral courage in standing for racial justice, one explicitly naming Confederates as genocidal traitors, and one of many commemorating civil rights leader Representative John Lewis and Sean's own personal connections to John Lewis's work. Articles have also covered Sean's work talking about cross-racial solidarity, working with Muslim communities in his district to uplift the systemic racism that affects communities of color, and both understand differences across those communities while finding solidarity with that difference. So these leaders really show us that building strong alliances across multiracial communities in their districts and spoken openly and explicitly about the necessity for racial justice, and really just about race itself, is what it means to be a leading progressive Democrat. So just one final example, for people in Chicago, we know that we've seen a huge spike in the last couple of years of city council elections with powerful left and progressive candidates. Many are also people of color themselves who have succeeded in unseating these middle of the road Democrats by talking about things like gentrification, the needs of communities of color that are either part of or are entirely their wards, and pushing against this big business racial capitalism that historic neoliberal leaders have done for decades. And specifically looking at some of these people, Rosanna Rodriguez, Jeanette Taylor, Carlos Ramirez Rosa, Maria Haddon, Daniel Espada, Matt Martin, and Bairrosito Lopez. They've come up through community organizing for racial and economic justice in their communities, and they're now pushing these same agendas citywide, and they're really making an impact doing it. So overall, our point is that in today's electoral climate, centering racial justice and working for racial equity alongside electoral wins is not only the right thing to do, it's the path to victory. This is an exciting time where it's not just momentum for all these symbols of great things that are happening, but it's really a key opportunity to be on the right side of history and also make a material difference in election wins that can impact our lives and future generations. So I'm going to pause. Does anybody have questions about racial equity work and how it intersects with electoral work?
Thank you very much, Nick. Appreciate that. I hope you can sense we're building up to an ask. So I am going to let Carrie and Lori know that I am going to give up my last 5 minutes to make sure we have your full 5 minutes each. And Lori, I am now going to turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to try to share my screen right now. So please, someone let me know if it's working. Whoops, sorry. There we go. Can you see this? I can't see you, so yeah, someone will have to. So this is basically what Chris was just talking about, the CP for P neighborhoods, and you can see that there's 22 different neighborhoods. And what our plan is to use the Magda cards and divvy them up and then get them into all these different neighborhoods. So that's going to entail talking to the leaders of these organizations. So these organizations on the right are the ones that are working within the 22 neighborhoods. And I think Chris mentioned there were 15 of those organizations. So what my plan is I'm going to take the Magda cards and my husband is going to get them printed. I'm going to stop sharing just a second. How do I stop? Okay. So anyway, my husband is going to get them printed. We found a place to print them. I estimated we need about 1,000 sheets. So these are, you know, what the sheets look like. They're 4 on a sheet. Once we get them printed out, then we need to cut them into 4 pieces. So my ask is, we found a really affordable way to print them because we're not going to do them on super heavy cardboard. We're going to do them on kind of a lightweight cardboard, and I think I can get 1,000 sheets for about $213. So I need 10 people to step up and contribute $20. And I need 10 people also to volunteer, who live in my neighborhood, which is Andersonville, to go to FedEx or Kinko's and cut them for me, because it took me an hour to cut 100 sheets by myself the other day, and I'm going to get a big blister if I do that. But if we have 10 of us contributing 1 hour, we can get it done. And here's the deal. I'll have my husband send this out. They'll come back to me. Then I'll drive them to your house. If you live close enough to me, you'll go the next day, you'll cut them for me. Then I'll go pick them up the next day and I will take them to Chris Patterson and we will get these cards into all of these 22 neighborhoods. So can you please put your name in the chat and say, if you want to contribute $20 and if you live near Andersonville on the north side and you want to help me cutting them, my hands will really love you. I'll pass it on to Carrie because now she's the follow-up to this whole thing. These 2 things, phone banks and getting the cards out, they're going to run concurrently. So Carrie, take it away.
Hey everybody. So I moved here about 8 months ago from North Carolina, where in the 10 years that I lived there, just in terms of talking about where race and voting intersect, we had the heaviest area of gerrymandering. The case that went to the Supreme Court was from the district in which I resided. And when it became clear through the supermajority in our state legislature that the gerrymandered maps were going to eventually crumble, they passed some voter photo ID laws to further restrict African-American voting, since surgically cutting the maps was going to fall apart that plan. So working with Rose and Lori and Leni, and Nick, we've put together 10 days where we'd like to do phone banking directly into these 22 areas in Chicago to help our underserved community make sure that they're registered, that they have all the voting information, that they know how they can vote, their options to either vote by mail or vote early or vote on election day.
I found that interesting.
There are 268,000 phone numbers on the list that Indivisible has pulled for us. So we have 10 days of phone banking coming up, but we won't be able to cast the widest net without people saying, yes, I'm committed to giving 2 hours of my time or more to phone bank with us. It's really easy. It's not hub dialer. It is using your own phone to dial in the number and make those connections. So you have an opportunity to connect with people. And I love that system where you're dialing it yourself, because when I have somebody on the phone and they're saying, yes, could you text me the link, and I will hop on and I will either, you know, apply for my vote by mail ballot, or I want to see what the PDF map is where the early voting locations are. You have the ability to do that on some of the like hub dialer where you're dialing through the computer, you don't have the ability. So 10 phone banking sessions between now and October 22nd. The first one is this Sunday. And we would really, really love to see enough people join on to make an impact. Rose, I'm passing it back to you.
Yes, thank you. Does anyone have questions? I am going to go ahead and repost my agenda, because within the agenda is an opportunity to sign up for these phone banks. So I am doing that right now. I encourage you to join us. I hear you. There's a lot going on right now. I know that Wisconsin is very important. Michigan is very important, but I also think critically important are the underserved communities. So we're really, really thrilled to have Carrie on this, and Lori, and the partnership of Chris Patterson, as well as Deborah Harris. And give it a try. The first one is September the 6th. We would love to see all of your faces at this phone bank. And I'm going to share a little more at the 8 o'clock hour that's coming up very soon. But I've had the opportunity to canvass with the underserved community in Milwaukee, and I just can't tell you how gratifying that was. I was able to knock on doors that were not knocked on for a long, long time. And my husband and I felt incredibly honored to be able to do that. We're not canvassing right now for obvious reasons, but we can phone bank. I can tell you of these 22 neighborhoods, one of them is where I was born. Rose, born in Roseland. And I left long time ago. Don't want to age myself. Okay, the 70s. And it was, part of that, I'll tell you, it was part of the white flight. And I want to give back. I want to give back to what happened in that community, to Roseland. And I hope you will join me. Again, I know you're all so incredibly busy. We all are. But this underserved community deserves our time. I hope you sign up for all 10 of these phone banks. And Carrie, I've just met her, but she's phenomenal. She's a one-woman shop right there. She has more energy, I think. Can I say, Leni? Maybe more than Leni and I together, which I think that signifies a lot. So without further ado, I certainly hope we see you at these phone banks.
Quick question for Lori. How do we get you the money?
So you can either do Zelle or PayPal, and I put my email for Zelle. I think the Zelle one's my old email. I put the PayPal one also in there in the chat. And if paper cutting, if you can just put your email in the chat, and I will email you and we'll figure something out. But thank you so much, everyone.
All right, yes, somehow we were able to get all of that in a half an hour, which is actually shocking to me. And if there's no other questions with a minute to spare, I'm going to turn it over to Leni.
Hey, Rose, I just had a quick thing that I wanted to say. I wanted to thank Julia for inviting me out to Hyde Park, and we were trying to get people to vote, to register to vote. A lot of people, she's very aggressive, and I'm not. So she was able to get 2 people. But even with the people that I couldn't get, I went to another voter registration drive where they weren't really giving people actually registering them. They were giving them these cards, and I'm going to make copies of it, and they scan it, and it takes them to the voter registration site, so they can find their voter registration site. They can register online, just in case they don't want to give you their personal information on the street. So these cards are really good. So I'm gonna make more copies of these.
I see a
Kevin?
question from Donna.
Kevin, that's such a great idea because people are now used to using that in restaurants or wherever they go. So it's like such a natural thing for people now.
Right.
We're all trained to use the code, the visual on our camera, and it pulls it right up.
It pulls it right up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's a
that's
great
great.
idea. Yeah.
Right. It's fantastic.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. It is 8 o'clock. We just ended the call, the Vote by Mail Task Force call. If you missed it, it was fantastic. Please do let us know if you want to join next time. Just come at 7 o'clock for voter registration, 7:30 for Vote by Mail. We share stories and we keep each other going. It's really a challenging time with COVID. But we know right now is the moment. We've got how many more days to go? Somebody tell me, 68 or so before Election Day. But we also know that early voting is definitely on the table, and we want to encourage those who can vote in person to vote in person safely. We're really short on poll workers and poll watchers, so please be on the lookout for those links. Indivisible nationally is also pushing those who can serve as poll workers or poll watchers to please step up. And we're also going to hear from tomorrow, probably, from the Wisconsin Dems, opportunities that you could take, especially if you live in Wisconsin, to be a poll worker. They're also looking for lawyers. We absolutely need to protect our vote in Wisconsin, so we are going to dig into that in a little bit. I wanted to thank Chris Patterson from Institute for the Nonviolence for coming on to the call today. There are links in the chat if you missed it. A little background on Chris and what he's doing with the CP for P, with the 22 communities that they're targeting in Chicago to get out the vote. We thank Carrie for her initiative to do voter engagement calls to these 22 neighborhoods. And thank you, Nick, for helping to organize those phone calls through Indivisible phone banks. I also want to shout out to Lori for all the work that she's doing, not only on Wednesdays for Working Wednesdays, but for her nonviolence prevention lead that she's doing. She is a nonviolence prevention lead for Indivisible IL9, and that work is essential. That work is year-round, ongoing. That is the kind of work that we need to do to win. And Nick, you was kind enough to come on to the call at 7:30 to provide a deck for us to show the reasons why we need to continue to engage and really fight for what we believe in and lead with our values. So if you're interested in seeing that deck, please reach out to Nick. At this time, I'm really so grateful to have Chicago Votes on with us today. If you don't know Chicago Votes, I'm going to share a link with you. All that they're doing to engage voters, not only to get out the vote, but really push on policies that will make a difference in the long term and also hold us, the legislature, accountable for actually implementing these laws. So if you check it out, you'll see that they helped to pass online voter registration in Illinois, same-day voter registration, extended grace period voting, automatic voter registration in 2017, voting in jails, and also providing civics in prison. So at this time, I would love to pass the mic on to the team at Chicago Votes, including Alex and Charlotte, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about yourself. And also, I just want to say that we would love to have you on these calls regularly because I know there's a lot going on for next year. So I will pass it on to Alex.
Thank you, Leni. Hello, everybody. My name is Alex. I am a community organizing manager at Chicago Votes. Let Charlotte introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm in a car, so I'm sorry if the service is a little spotty. My name is Charlotte. Thank you so much for having me on this call. I'm a student at the University of Chicago and an intern for Chicago Votes, and I'm very happy to be here tonight.
We love Charlotte. So Chicago Votes, I will give a little bit of background. We're a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that works specifically to engage young people in the civic process. So whether that's voting in the electoral process, whether that's court watching in the judicial process, or that is legislative work, passing and implementing legislation. And so I'll just give a super brief update about our DOTV work. And then Charlotte's going to tell us a little bit about some of our engagement with folks that are re-entering citizens or formerly incarcerated. So we are currently working to call through every single young person in Chicago that we can get their phone number for, to ensure that they have a plan to vote and that they have ballot resources. So we create voter guides. Our voter guide is nonpartisan, and it focuses on the water reclamation race, state's attorney's race, judicial judges that are running for retention and to fill the vacancy, as well as the fair tax. So that's what we've been calling young people about every Tuesday and Thursday from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I know Charlotte has the sign up link because she'll talk about it a little bit later. And so that is our electoral work. It's also using social media and Twitter to reach our base and using texting. So using OutVote, peer-to-peer texting to send hundreds of texts in a second to young people to recruit young election judges and educate them about the fair tax and things like that. So something also that we are doing with our young folks in our Democracy Corps program. Charlotte just put the registration link for if you want to volunteer with us. So we are also working on policy with our young folks. And so our Unlock Civics is a program of Chicago Votes that works at the intersection of voting rights and folks in the American legal system, whether they are detained pre-trial in Cook County Jail or jails across the state, or they are incarcerated. Folks may not know, but half of our incarcerated population in Illinois Department of Correction prisons are young people, 17 to 35. And those are folks that are disenfranchised. Those are young people that are disenfranchised. And so one of the policies that we are fighting for going into 2021, because COVID just canceled legislative session basically this year, is voting in prison. We passed legislation on voting in jail. Folks that have been detained for trial have always had the right to vote, but there was never systems set up to ensure their right to vote wasn't violated. We want to take it a step further and enfranchise folks that are currently serving a conviction for several reasons, including you don't lose your citizenship when you are incarcerated, so you should not lose your right to vote. People that are incarcerated pay a 25% surcharge tax on all commissary that goes back to the state. No taxation without representation is foundational in this country, as well as there are thousands of veterans that we are incarcerating that we're taking their right to vote away in this state, which we do not think is right. And so it requires a constitutional amendment. That's something we're fighting for alongside two other bills that work at dismantling the prison industrial complex, and two that are judicial related that require training for judges on domestic violence, intimate partner violence, gender, and impact of trauma on youth brain development, racial bias in sentencing, as well as a bill that would ensure that folks that have a criminal record are not barred from jury service on the sole reason that they have a criminal record. So that is our Unlock Civics policy platform. I think Charlotte has a link to our petition, and that's what we can really use help with, is folks sharing our petition, signing our petition. We're going to be restructuring it a little bit to make voting in prison like the highlight of our petition, as well as organizations, individual organizations that want to join. So I will stop there and give it to Charlotte, but I can answer any questions first.
Thank you, Alex. I know that was a lot, but that's the reason why I welcome you on this call and any calls that you can join us. Moving forward, it seems like next January is a long time away, the start of the next legislative session, but truly we need all the help we can get to build up for that next session so we can get some other good bills passed. And wherever, yeah, go for it.
So if I understand correctly, you are talking about voting from prison of people who are currently serving the time, because people who are done serving have the right to vote. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have other questions for Alex? And Julia said that she's having a hard time hearing. Let me know if you are also having a hard time hearing. If no one else has any other questions, does Charlotte want to add anything?
Yeah, definitely. So building off what Alex was saying, part of our work to enfranchise incarcerated communities is through legal reform, but also organizing and advocacy. So if you're interested in signing on onto our legislative petition as an individual, I'll put in the link in the chat. We also have a coalition of Illinois-based organizations that under our Unlock Civics coalition. So if you represent an organization that would be interested in signing on as a partner, we would love to have you. And you can reach out to me or Alex with questions about that. And then I also want to talk about our upcoming Felony Voter Rights Week, which will be from the 14th to the 21st. And so we'll be having social media kind of blasts on a number of topics, from felony disenfranchisement to our voting in prison bill and the process of voting once released from prison, as well as prison gerrymandering. So if you're interested in being part of those conversations, we'd also love to have you. And we're also trying to reach out to people who are formerly incarcerated to talk about the upcoming election, and that'll be part of our phone banking and text banking work. And you can sign up for that in the same link that I plugged in, the Zoom registration link. But yeah, we are, again, happy to answer any questions and would love to have you be involved in our work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlotte. If you have a question for Alex or Charlotte, Alex put her email into the chat, so go ahead and copy and paste it there. And we would love to see that petition that groups can sign on to. Thank you, that'd be great. And also, we're gonna have you back again, as we move forward. I just wanted to say thank you for all the work that you're doing, especially helping to engage young people, not only in Chicago, but beyond. And this legislation is statewide, has a statewide impact. So please do reach out to them at any time your members are interested in decarceration or, you know, anything that, any of the legislation that they talked about today. I did share a link earlier on, so check that out. Thank you again, Chicago Votes, for being here.
Thank you so much, Leni.
You're welcome. We'll see you again. Feel free to hang out, or
we'll be. I put my email in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you. We are glad that you're working on fair tax. We usually have Graciela also jumping on. I know that she's working on Women's March stuff right now too, so oftentimes there's a little bit of conflict, but we're really grateful to work in coalition and a network with any groups that's helping to pass the fair tax in November. So thank you for that too. I'm going to pass the mic now to Nick, who's going to give us some Indivisible national updates. Nick.
All right, hello. So I have a lot of updates today. I took, 4 days off, and it is finally caught up, so you're gonna get a lot from me tonight. So we'll start out, you can see in the agenda some highlights on our end. For all the groups that are on distributed fundraising, we've had a little mix up at National, so things are paused right now for fundraising right now. We can't match because there was some sort of form that expired. So what we're going to do instead, the match program was supposed to expire September 20th, and it was going to be up to $350. So now we are going to extend it for whatever time period is missed between September 1st and whenever the paperwork end gets filled out, and we're going to raise the match to $500. So I don't know for sure when it'll come back online. It should be worked out definitely by November 3rd, but just stay tuned for an email from Amy from our finance team. She'll keep everybody updated. We talked about the phone bank for the Institute for Nonviolence and all the Chicago community areas, so please sign up for that. It is very important, and I just want to stress that, you know, there are so many focuses we have statewide. We definitely want to flip Wisconsin. We heard from Emily last week to talk about it. We have to flip Michigan as well. We have all these important congressional races in Illinois and so many other things nationwide. Making these calls into these community areas in Chicago is really important for our long-term goals. We know that Indivisible is largely a white audience. All you have to do is look at the screen tonight and to really diversify and live our values, we need to reach into these communities. And it's not really to tell them what to do, it's to hear from them and how do we help. And vote by mail calls are just one piece we can do that. And we can definitely start this process over the next 9 weeks. Making these inroads with our partner groups is really important. So thank you to Rose and Carrie and everybody else who got this process started. I'm gonna try to join as many of those phone bank sessions as I can, because I love making these calls, which is why I'm in this for the first place. So other things, the NCN, show of hands, how many of you in your groups are part of the National Campaigns Network, the NCN, already? A lot of you are, maybe without knowing it. So the NCN is our way to coordinate nationwide with groups. Here in Illinois, we have pretty much the prime example of a statewide coalition. Whenever my other teammates like Emily join, they get so jealous because it's all of our groups. We are all here in the same place every Wednesday night. And we coordinate really well statewide. So picture this, but with all of our 6,000 groups across the country, and that's what we do every month. So we talk about different things at the national level, whether it's legislation we're pushing for or an important program we have coming up, whether it's another thing of legislation or if it's a distributed fundraising or a GROW grant. People that are in the NCN likely know before everybody else in our network. It is more FaceTime with organizers like me. We really do a good job with communicating that way, so you get more of a heads up on things. So the state call or the NCN calls are usually the last Thursday of every month, or we should have them even beyond November. This is an ongoing thing we do, and it's a good way to share strategy and learn from other groups. So much like here, where we talk about something we did well, or we highlight groups every now and then, that's something we do regularly with the NCN calls. And we also have different breakout groups within that. So if you've seen my emails, you see things like the Rural Caucus or our POC Caucus for any group leaders that are people of color. Those are just two examples of NCN projects that are continuing to be developed and rolled out. So if you want to join that, oh, Rosie, you got a question?
Yeah, I know this is gonna sound really stupid, but I wasn't familiar with this at all. So obviously I'm not reading enough stuff. And what do the initials stand for even?
So it's NCN, and it means National Campaigns Network.
Oh, okay, good. Thank you.
The reason that it exists is you all know that we started out as a Google Doc, and we never knew that we would explode into 6,000 groups nationwide. Here we are almost 4 years later now, and all of you, some of you started before our national organization did. So we all kind of coalesced and came together and aligned on our issues, and then we figured out how best to support you. So now this is a way for all of you to coordinate with each other and really network without having to get together in the same space. So we were doing this before COVID on Zoom. So this is just another way for us to stay together. So that's the NCN. On that same thread, we're starting to think about what will happen in 2021 and post-November. Some people have reached out to me on what do we do if Trump doesn't leave? And we do have a plan for this. It's called Protect the Results. It is now, I think, 60 or 70 organizations strong between all of our partner groups. And it really is our plan for that. We don't know what it will look like yet. We have to get Joe Biden to win first, and then we'll figure out if we need to do a rapid response mobilization in every city. But whatever happens, we know that Trump is going to throw a temper tantrum the whole way. I was in DC for the last few days, and every single time I go there, the fortress outside of the White House just grows and grows. There is about a 2-block radius now of enormous fences. It's just totally absurd. Who knows what will happen on November 3rd? We may not know the result right away because of the mail-in vote, but Indivisible is working with all of our partners to decide what the best path forward is for whatever action we do. But for 2021 work, we know that getting Trump out of office isn't going to solve all of our problems. So that's why it's so important to do those phone calls with Rose and Carrie and Lori and anybody else, and also start to think about our policy priorities as a group. I'm of course going to keep drilling the federal updates, especially if we flip the Senate, grow a majority in the House, and elect Joe Biden. We will have a trifecta for the first time in nearly 10 years at that point. So we will have to pass as much legislation as possible that really improve people's lives. It's going to start with COVID relief as number one. Democracy reform is going to be huge up there. So getting DC statehood, getting rid of the filibuster. We'll have a lot of policy priorities that align with like an HR1 type of bill, getting money out of politics, all those very important things. Immigration reform will be right up there. Climate policy. There's a lot that we'll be working on. And then as a statewide group, there's of course more we want to do with vote by mail, I'm sure, and passing these same issues and things at the state level. So we already do have a couple breakout groups. We have the Vote by Mail Task Force with Rose. We have ILVOTE. We've also been talking back and forth about adding additional groups to this. So I know, Bill, you have a lot of groups with NWS OFA, like the climate group and the fiscal group. Do you want to talk a little bit about how they're structured? I'm just putting you on the spot.
Well, yeah, we're structured around the OFA original snowflake, which means that we have dedicated leaders set to each one of our issue groups. A Stand With Women group, climate change, fiscal, respect our democracy that is focusing on vote by mail, a healthcare group, a social media, or not social media, a social justice group, and then a immigration reform and refugee reform group. And if it didn't hit 9, well, there's 9 groups. Each group has 1 to 2 leaders. We have 2 leaders, we call them co-leads, and they're responsible for their group. We empower them to create their own meetings, to work with our communications group on getting newsletters and email blast out, etc. And when we see one of the groups during a month that has a great speaker, or when an issue becomes national, then we put our arms around it and we make it into a chapter event, all inclusive. Totally, we have 26 leaders that work with the 9 issue groups and the communications group. And about 40% of our leaders are part of the communications team. And that's, as you all know, social media, it's the website, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, and it's all new things that are happening. Up to 2 years ago, before we really got involved with Indivisible, we really didn't, we weren't allowed to do campaigning, so to speak. We'd have to go in and work with other groups under their organizational banner. These days, we are actively now campaigning and endorsing. It's one of those wonderful things that Indivisible has brought to us, and that's kind of the gist of how we're organized. Each group is independent. Each group sets their own agenda. They set their own norms and their meetings. So Sarah, my co-lead, and myself, it is a full-time job for us just to kind of talk and work with everybody. Every Monday through Friday, we have a coffee and conversation. We invite people just to join. We'll talk about the doggonest thing. Sometimes blueberries. Sometimes we talk about Trump. And other times we talk about some of the issues and things that are happening. And then every day at 1 o'clock, we have an open office concept where people just drop in, particularly our leadership, to talk about help that they need, or maybe some advice, etc. And that is proving a little bit too popular right now. Nick, back to you.
All right. Well, Sarah, you got your hand up. You have something to add?
Just one quick thing. Each team, it may have been what you were getting to, is the coalition building, because each of those teams also works very extensively with different coalition groups. Like Climate Change has Sierra Club, Barrington Go Green, Palatine Cool Cities. There's like 50 different groups in the climate and each of the other teams. So we try to pull people together, even though they may not agree on all things. When something's going on, we want all of the coalition teams to jump in on it. So that has really been an excellent way. We've been able to build the strength of what we're doing. And that's an ongoing thing. It's amazing how many new people are coming out. It's like, yeah, let's all go together. So that was it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, so the reason I bring this up is I've been talking to some of our partners. We've had people, like Sarah's been on our call from Newtown Action Alliance. She's always sharing her updates. And I know that there's a lot of people in our calls who do a lot of work in the gun reform space. So an idea that we've been thinking about is, first, should we create like a gun reform task force within Indivisible, Illinois? And we don't need to decide right now unless people are absolutely ready to, but just have that idea in the back of your mind, or any other relevant group. So if you would like to be part of a climate change working group or something like that, that could be something that we definitely build out over the next 9 weeks, but also into 2021 as we head into issue-driven work. So if anybody wants to chime in right now, I'll pause for a couple seconds, and then I have one more thing to share. So Marcy, I see your comment. Mom's Demand could likely be like one of those partner groups that participate in the task force or coalition, whatever name we decide on it. But yeah, I would feel they'd be a pretty active part of that team.
Hey, Nick, this is Jim.
Mhm.
For the last couple of years, there's been a group that you guys probably are all aware of, the Illinois Gun Violence Prevention Coalition. That has taken on new leadership this year, and they are, in my opinion, losing it. We don't have meetings. We don't have regular meetings anymore. And it may be something that Indivisible could fill in if Indivisible wanted that. It's obviously a big responsibility, but I mean, the coalition had over 175 members, groups, but we don't meet anymore. So, and it's to me, it's disappointing. I'm losing touch with what's going on in the gun, the common sense gun bills and laws and stuff because of that.
I might suggest to all of us, maybe Nick and Scott and others can help put together a survey of some sort. Because if we do decide to have a task force, I would be interested to know how your groups might want to participate. Jim, whether it means actually, leading parts of discussions, whether it means helping research, whether it means helping to do outreach to build out our coalition, and also on policies. I mean, there are many arms to this, and it could be very good and very timely, but I would love to, before we jump into anything, know what others are interested in doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can put together a survey and then send it around to everybody, and then we can gauge interest, not only on like a gun reform task force, but if there's any other issues that people might be interested in, it can go on the same thing. Any other comments on that front? Okay, last thing from me. On Tuesday night, there will be Make the Media Take Notice, which is a training from Marge Halperin from Indivisible Chicago and Terry Maher from Bend the Arc CU. They'll be talking about specifically press and media and how to get your group some coverage, specifically positive coverage, and how to highlight a lot of the good work we're doing. So it is Tuesday night. The link to RSVP is in the agenda. Please share it with everybody in your group. It's not just for you. Anybody's welcome to join. And also other partner groups are welcome to join too. So share it everywhere. And I will toss it to Etta, I think is next. Also, one more thing, we will be taking a group screenshot at the end, so don't leave. Oh, Rosie, you got something?
Yeah. Well, I had one more question for you too, actually. The NCNs, I didn't catch when, at what time are they on Thursdays?
So they are the last Thursday of the month usually. Don't know if we have it scheduled just yet.
Oh. So it would be in the evening or during the day, or?
Yeah, it's usually in the evening, like 7 o'clock or so. But once I see it scheduled, I'll send it to you.
Okay, great. And then you'll send us a link that we can sign up?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And actually, I think Evanston might be part of it already. But
oh, really? Well, then I got to check with my leadership team, I guess.
I don't know. I'll check for you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay, Etta, I think you are.
I'm next.
Oh yes, okay.
Leni, is it okay if I share my screen a couple of times? I have some slides. Okay, excellent. Hi, everybody. I'm Etta Worthington. I'm from Forest Park and Western Front Indivisible. So I wanted to share with you something that you may not have had an opportunity to learn about, and it's something that's transformed how I'm approaching social media. And it's pretty powerful. And it's come from Indivisible. I had an opportunity to go to the Windivisible boot camp early August. And one of the sessions, and the one that really had the most impact on me, was called Leveraging People Power to Combat Online Disinformation. You know, probably like, there, I'm gonna share. Like all of you, you know, I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm just trying to set people straight sometimes because there's all kinds of craziness there. Well, I learned that maybe I was doing the wrong thing. So I wanted to share with you what I learned. And, you know, if you didn't have an opportunity to go to that, it might be helpful to look into that. 3 basic terms: disinformation, which is purposely false or misleading information spread with the intent of doing harm. Next is misinformation. It's false or misleading, but not purposely created or spread with intent to harm. And I'm sure I have done some misinformation sometimes because I pass on something that's not really true. Sometimes just putting up something that is from 3 years ago, you know, it's then misinformation because it looks like it's happened this week or today, and it's not. Malinformation is technically inaccurate information, but weaponized to mislead or do harm. A real current example is the quote where in, I think, one of Trump's campaign ads, where it's having Joe Biden say, "In Joe Biden's America, you wouldn't be safe." And what it is, he was quoting Trump, and they just took out that Joe's saying that. So this is malinformation. Anyhow, what I learned, instead of trying to correct everybody, we need to never amplify a false claim, even to debunk it. Now, my thing had been, oh, I might want to jump in and say something to kind of set the person straight. Well, what happens when you do that is that, I'm going to stop sharing for the moment, is that basically you tell Facebook, let's say we'll talk about Facebook, they have algorithms. So if I respond to somebody's post, they're saying, oh, yes, more people should see this. So when we respond, when we jump in and say, oh, no, that's wrong, or, oh, you should look at this, even if we like or are angry in a response, you know, just the little thing we click, that all feeds into the algorithm. And then Facebook says, oh, more people need to see this. So when I have been responding to somebody and trying to debunk what bad information is out there, I've just been making it spread more. And I was pretty shocked that that was happening. So the nice thing with going to this presentation is that, of course, I learned that I was doing the wrong thing, and that I learned also that Indivisible has a plan for that, and it's called the Truth Brigade. Have any of you heard about the Truth Brigade? Some of you have. It's basically saying, let's all focus on a particular thing and get the information out there. Now, instead of debunking something, what we're supposed to be doing is not respond directly, but have another post where we put out the truth. And the Truth Brigade has done a couple of campaigns. The most current one is by vote by mail. When Kamala Harris was first announced as a vice presidential candidate, there was a campaign to spread true information about her. So the current one is vote by mail. And I was going to tell you an example that I've done. So instead of, again, responding to somebody, we just say, and here's an example, I could do a post of this. Trump is spreading unfounded lies that are dangerous, but the truth is vote by mail is not prone to fraud, and every state requires that vote by mail ballots be zip verified. So I'm getting out the information that I want to have out there, but not in a post that's responding to somebody who's saying, oh, maybe we shouldn't vote by mail because there's too much fraud. Indivisible wants us then to use the hashtag Truth Brigade, even on Facebook. And you know, I'm talking about Facebook a lot because about 75% of our population uses Facebook, whereas only about 25% use Twitter. So it's actually more powerful. And the far right is using Facebook a lot. And they have a lot of small groups. They go to local groups even and amplify messages. They get out to all these groups. And so you're seeing everywhere the messages that they are doing. So Indivisible wants us to be doing some more with getting out the right information. So I really encourage you to consider joining on with this, or at least get somebody in your group who wants to do that and be able to share the information with others in the group. I have some things I can put in the chat room about where to do that, how to do that, and I will find that document and be able to, maybe I will, share. Yeah, somewhere here. So what my group has been doing, we have a happy hour on Friday at 4:30. And so the last couple of weeks, we've been just spending time talking about that. We actually went over the slides that came from the presentation that they did at Indivisible. I'm gonna copy this and put it in the chat. And then we've, been just figuring out how we can respond. It's not, well, I will try a little later to put everything in there. Anyhow, if you would be interested in stopping by at 4:30 on a Friday night, we're probably going to be talking about that a bit. And the other interesting thing about the happy hour is if you ever come, you get to see me mix a cocktail, a new one every week. And sometimes that's quite funny because I'll forget things. It's like, oh, I got to get this. So anyhow, I just want to say that, and maybe some of the rest of you have gone to, went to this session or have checked in with the information. It's really changed how I'm doing things. I'm much more careful. I'm also looking at where things come from. I've never heard of this site. It doesn't look like a valid news site. I'm certainly going to stay away from that. So I'm just going to try again to share this stuff and suggest if you get a chance to check it out and be part of the Truth Brigade, because I think we can be pretty powerful with that.
Great.
I don't know why
Thank you.
I can't share. Maybe no, I did. I think I did. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Etta. So you'll see all of the slide deck. Thank you. That was a fantastic presentation, including resources you put in there, how to sign up, and how about if we convince the person to take down the original misleading post is what Magda was saying. And Sandra's saying good information. Is that addressed in there, Etta? Magda's question says, how about if we convince the person to take down the original misleading post? You're on mute.
That's an excellent question, and that would be a good thing to take to the Slack channel, because the two guys who did the presentation, I think, moderate that, and they would probably have better idea on that. But I think, it may be because part of it is, connecting directly to people and trying to have a real connection, which we don't when we're just sharing all the time. They even encourage you to go offline and share information with people that way.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, good.
And thank you for sharing your Zoom happy hour meeting. And Julia says our weekly virus rebuilding Twitter storms connected to the Truth Brigade. That makes a lot of sense to me. Actually, this is a perfect segue. Yeah, Rose is next, and she could address that. I'll also share into the chat when I search for hashtag Truth Brigade. You'll see that Indivisible Brookfield is very active at the top of that thread. So thank you, Rose. You're next.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. I have just posted links for everything that I am going to speak about. And my remarks are split into two areas, Wisconsin, which I have been talking about since 2018, and also the Vote by Mail Task Force. Starting with Wisconsin, I want to congratulate, first of all, Rosie Reese and everybody else working on Wisconsin. I know Indivisible Evanston has been there right from the beginning in 2019. I remember canvassing with all of you. So I applaud you for all of your good work, the phone banking, the texting, and the memory of all that canvassing that we did. I want to
pass on your very nice words to my team tomorrow morning.
Absolutely, thank you for doing so. I am going to add to the opportunities for Wisconsin. Some of you might have seen emails that I have been sending to all the Indivisible state leaders. There is another opportunity in Wisconsin, and it's sort of the niche for Indivisible Illinois, and that is the voter protection. There is a phenomenal team in Wisconsin led by a gentleman by the name of David, and also a woman by the name of Ellen, who shows up on our ILVOTE Facebook Live on Thursday evening. So essentially, this is a small team, and you will note, unfortunately, as I have, that Vice President Biden has slipped a little bit in the polls with the law and order conversation. That is a little disturbing to all of us. So I think Biden is down by about 4. I have concern that as the opportunity for Biden increases, that more dirty tricks will happen in the back end. So that's why I think that Wisconsin voter protection is so critical. I welcome you in the, it's gonna be a time crunch, I know. We have a lot going on, but there's only 62 more days. We only have to do it for 62 more days. So I welcome and invite all of you to the Working Wednesdays at 10 a.m. that Lori leads. Lori was with us earlier in the evening, and what we do on Working Wednesdays at 10 a.m. is we recruit for Wisconsin voter protection. We recruit for poll observers, and those folks can be from Illinois, and that's perfectly acceptable. They are trained. One of the colleagues I have from my Indivisible group, Heartland Resistance Coalition, she is going to be a poll observer. She did go to the training already, and she said it's outstanding. Also, we are recruiting for poll workers in Wisconsin. Of course, they have to be residents of Wisconsin. I think they might even have to be residents for the particular county that they would be a poll worker. If that doesn't appeal to people because they are concerned about COVID-19, there are opportunities for the hotline. And again, bringing up Rosie. Rosie served on the hotline, and she might be willing to answer some questions for you. It was something that I did too. It was an extremely gratifying experience. And I don't know if it's true, but we were told that the hotline was really instrumental in April in helping Judge Karofsky win, because there's so much mass confusion going on about that election. You guys all heard about it with the Wisconsin Supreme Court, the US Supreme Court. I can only imagine what we're gonna face on November the 3rd. And then there's just calls to recruit volunteers for each of those areas. So I hope that you will carve out a little bit of your precious time for Wednesdays at 10 o'clock. Lori really does a superb job, and the team in Wisconsin is really, really top notch. Turning the table over to the Vote by Mail Task Force. Yes, we have been very, very, very busy. And I just want to call out some of our initiatives. I'll start with the one that we just discussed between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. We have phone banks that are going to start September the 6th. There's going to be 10 phone banks, and these phone banks are going to be into the underserved communities. So for those of you that were on during that period of time, we had the opportunity to hear from Chris Patterson. Chris Patterson works for an organization that has pinpointed 22 particular areas that have the most racial inequity, have the most violence, and we want to call into those communities, and we want to give those communities a voice. We want to make sure that they understand that their vote is critically important. We want to give them all the information that they might need, such as voting registration information, vote by mail information, and actually early voting information too, and make sure that all voices are heard. So within the big post that I just made, there is a link to sign up for the phone banks. They're going to be mostly on Thursdays and Sundays. that are going to be led by Carrie, who some of you heard during the 7:30 to 8 o'clock hour. So please do join us. We really don't have time to wait. We're not going to wait for the underserved community. We want to address that community and hear from them right now. Moving right along, we have Twitter storms. So we've been doing Twitter storms for a while now. I think today was number 5. We do the vote by mail Twitter storms every Wednesday at noon, from noon to 2 o'clock. We've had really incredible success. I was trying to do the math before I spoke. I think we're at, for those of you that know what I mean, we're at about 4 million impressions and a reach of about 1 million. I think I'm trying to be a little conservative so I don't overstate. I think our numbers are probably even better than that. And during these Twitter storms, we're trying to have fun, guys, because it has been stressful, right? So we play a little music. Lorena is a good DJ. Karen Goldman is a good DJ. We dance. We watch Bill tweet from the Twitter storm into the evening. It's hard to get him to stop. He didn't want to start. Now he can't stop. We appreciate your tweets, Bill. And yeah, I hope you join us for that too. And also 2 more things. We do have palm cards, as I like to call them, Magda cards. When we first started talking to the underserved community leaders, people such as Chris Patterson, Deborah Harris, Christian Perry, we got educated. And we learned that in some of those underserved communities, they don't have really strong Wi-Fi. So, you know, privileged person like me, I can just go online, request my application, which I have done. Some people can't do that because of weak Wi-Fi. So lo and behold, you know, when you need something, there's Magda. So Magda provided us with these palm cards, and they look like index cards. Not only is the link there for Chicago Board of Election, but also the phone number. And we have confirmed with the Chicago Board of Election, if folks don't have internet connectivity, that they can call Chicago Board of Election and an application will be sent to them. If you thought that was enough, it's not. I also want to tell you about something else we're incredibly excited about, and I want to thank Jonathan and also Sarah and others for building this out. We have developed a website, a vote by mail website off of the Indivisible Illinois site to make it incredibly easy for all of us to request our applications. Jonathan and Sarah put a tremendous amount of work into it. And so you know what happens when you put a lot of work into it. The result is quite phenomenal. And I invite all of you to come tomorrow to the ILVOTE Facebook Live, and Jonathan will be walking us through the website. You've heard from Julia and others that the Illinois State Board of Elections site is really kludgy. It's a little bit of a mess. There's all these disclaimers. I kind of call it the voter suppression site. Jonathan makes it extremely easy for all 108 jurisdictions to tap in and not only get their applications, but a whole lot more. So I hope you can all join us to learn more about the website. And I'll just end with some stats. I think this is all because of our hard work and nothing else, but so far, Jonathan shared a tweet on this. We have 1.2 million applications from Illinois voters that are in, about 15% of the population. This is really blowing out where we have been at similar points in time. And let's keep going, 15%. I want to get to, I'm greedy, I want to get to 100%. So there's 8 million registered voters. About 5 million voters are going to automatically get applications. So we only have to work on 3 million voters and we'll be all set. We'll have fair tax, and we will be much happier on November 4th. So thanks everybody for listening, and all the links are in the chat.
Thank you so
Quick
much, Rose.
question.
Does anybody have any? Yes.
Yeah,
Magda.
how do I call? Save the chat? Because as soon as I close, the chat goes bye-bye.
Nick, is it possible to have us
I mean,
have
all
a
the
copy
things-
sent to us?
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out a way that's easy for everybody. All the chats get saved to me because I'm the host. So I think what I can do is I'll email everyone, or Leni or Scott, maybe we all, like, we'll decide who emails it, but we can just forward the whole transcript.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi,
Yes.
Leni. Yeah,
Yes.
hi, this is Dr. Laura. I don't know if this is the great time, but anyways, for those that are making calls into Michigan and Wisconsin, is that Have we already covered that? It seemed like it was discussed, but I'm not absolutely sure. Lenny?
There are people who are doing calls into Michigan and Wisconsin, but what was your comment or question? You wanted to talk about?
Right. So, okay, there was a snafu in both Michigan and Wisconsin in the primary, prior to the primary elections when they requested their vote-by-mail ballots. Some of the voters requested the vote-by-mail ballots for the rest of the year, some of them only for the primary election. And so all of those voters need to be encouraged to apply for vote-by-mail again. It's a large chunk of voters. It's about 500,000 voters in Wisconsin who only applied for the April election and didn't signify that they wanted another vote-by-mail ballot in November. But they may be thinking that they already requested it. So here's an article right now that one of our people, Steve Rosenfeld, wrote up about it. And so anybody calling into Michigan and Wisconsin, if you could encourage people to check and make sure that they have in fact applied for their vote by mail, and if there's any question at all, just go ahead and apply again. Thanks.
Dr. Laura, thank you for that, and thank you for sharing the link in the chat. We've got 5 minutes left. I know it's not a lot of time, but I would love to hear from any of the districts groups that have endorsed candidates. I know that there's so much going on. I would love to hear any updates you'd like to share.
I can go with an update on Danny, if that's okay. We are phone banking for Danny every Wednesday night right before this call from 6 to 8, which precludes us getting on it for the 7 and 7:30s, but it's really been fun. And then tomorrow for Danny, we're participating with an event that's Faith Leaders Discussion with Danny, which should be quite interesting, I think. That's going to be from 5 to 6. And then Saturday, Danny's coming to Dixon. She's doing a park tour. So she's going all around the district and just being available in parks, because that's a place where you can just come with your mask and socially distance and get to see people in person. So thanks to Indivisible National, we will, when she comes to the park tour, we've got all kinds of wonderful bling. We've got buttons and we've got bumper stickers and we've got signs that with Brzezowski Indivisible on them to pass out, which is really, the timing is perfect and wonderful. So very exciting, lots and lots going on. She was with us on our call today. She's an amazing candidate. She just, she's getting a lot of really important endorsements, and I think the Indivisible endorsement early on did help her get some of these other endorsements. So I mean, I don't quite know how that works all the way around, but I do think it brought her some attention. So it was worth doing.
Thank you, Sarah, and your group for stepping up and helping Danny. She is a fantastic candidate, and we can't wait to hear from her on the Thursday live stream at the end of September with you. So anyone else want to give us an update on what's going on with your district and your endorsed candidate? If not, going once, going twice, going 3 times. We're going to take a photo, right? Nick, you want to take a photo? Does anybody have any Indivisible swag that they would like to share in the photo? I've got a bunch of buttons. If you do, go ahead and get that really quick. I want to thank you for joining us on this call on Wednesdays. It's super important for me. It really is a grounding moment in my week to see you all and to hear everything that you're doing. It's just reminds me of, you know, we've only known each other for a very short period of time, and look at what all we've done. And this is almost the end. We're almost here. How many more days? 60+ days, and it's the end of this election. It's a very exciting time. So Nick, you're going to count to 3. Sarah and Jody and Etta, do you want to join us? If so, go ahead and show yourselves on video. We're going to take this photo, and Nick, you ready? 3,
all right.
2,
2,
1.
All right, got it.
Thank you, everyone.